is Cesar, and I'm the lead organizer with Gig Workers Rising.
And we're here at this place. What's going on here today?
We're gonna do a rally. Basically, we've seen that there's a lot of information that we don't know. Like there's this black box full of data that is being collected from drivers that is used. This technology has been used to oppress wages, to really squish workers' wages. So to the point that people have to work longer hours. This algorithm learns about people and then squish workers as much as possible for to make profit for corporations like.
And algorithms and AI, you're saying is being used to further exploit your members?
Yes, they're being used to exploit our workers. Yeah, for sure. We've seen where, for example, we put together like 3 or 4 different phones. We send the same request. And when we see, it's surprising that some people get it for different, they all get it from different prices. And something that we notice also is like women tend to be paid less, at least in the example that we were able to experience.
And is there any control or regulation of how this technology is being used?
Not at all.
So it's kind of the wild, wild west.
Yeah, right now it's hard. Like there's need to be regulations. Regulations need to happen in order to help workers.
And the issue of deactivation, I know drivers have been deactivated. What is that process, and is it democratic? Do you have any rights, and how is it being used against you, basically?
Well, deactivations is a huge problem. I would say one of the top 2 problems. You can be driving, you have 8,000, 9,000 drives, 20,000 rides, and you just make a mistake, or it just takes one report, like somebody reports you, even it could be a false report, and then you get deactivated. So you lose your ability to bring money, to support your family, to pay your rent, to buy your food, you just lose your ability in a second.
And what's the process? Is there any kind of process to appeal that or justify it?
There's a process to appeal, but it's not enough. People still get deactivated. Drivers are not being listened to. They don't want to listen to the driver's story many times. Sometimes they're asking you for proofs that you don't have. It's your word against the customer, so you always lose.
And the issue of unionization, I know the companies don't want unions. They don't want workers organized. How do you see organizing, and how is that going to take place, and what would that mean for drivers?
I mean, organizing and being part of a union, in my experience, has always been something positive. Being at the table, being able to negotiate with them directly, I think that's positive. That's positive for fair working conditions.
And how has AB 5 and also the overturning of that affected drivers?
I don't have much information about that, but what I can tell you about is that this process will allow drivers to join a union. So.
And the issue of workers' compensation, workers getting injured on the job, they say that you're not employed by the companies, yet they determine basically whether or not you're going to work or not. Do you think there's a double standard?
Of course, after the passing Prop 22 back in 2020, drivers were stripped from all working labor rights. All labor rights have been stripped from them, so there's any kind of labor rights. So any person that works in California is allowed to have this very basic human working conditions, right? But for gig workers, it's very different. After passing Prop 22, this really stripped their working conditions.
So they don't want gig workers to be organized.
Of course, no. Of course, no. Companies want their profit. They don't want to deal with any other situation where it's out of their control. They want to control the whole market. They want to control how things things are.
And there's also the issue of autonomous vehicles, AI, Waymo, and now Tesla. What's your thoughts about that? And because there seem to be, the plan is to take over everything.
Yeah, no, that's really been affecting drivers. Drivers have been reporting that their wages have gone down. Their ride requests have been going down, so they have to wait longer. They have to work longer hours in order to to be able to provide for their families. Workers work like 12 hours a day now because of those reasons. Like there's way more, there's other things. So drivers have to be out there for
Well,
12
who's
hours.
enforcing the regulations? There's supposed to be a law about 12 hours. I mean, it seems like laws aren't being enforced. Health and safety rules.
Yeah, well, some drivers have reported that after 12 hours, the app kicks you out, so they have to wait, some time. But sometimes, what drivers have to do, maybe they have to use other methods of work.
And conditions for drivers, I mean, some of them have to drive long distances into San Francisco, then they're sleeping in their cars. Is this a serious concern to you about the conditions of drivers?
Yeah, many people don't know about this. And yes, many drivers like from Sacramento, Fresno, from other places, they come, they stay here sometimes for months. They don't get to see their families. They just been working here. They go to a 7-Eleven to buy food. They go to they bought memberships at the gym to take showers, and they just sleep in their cars. And some other drivers are just homeless completely. But many people don't know that.
Sounds like a slave economy.
Yeah, it's a new way. The new era where yeah, we've seen that. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And what can people do who want to support your efforts?
Definitely worker power. Always get united. This is an important moment to stand up together.
Ibrahim Jallo.
Okay. And you're here today with drivers who have some concerns. What are your concerns as a driver?
Well, the main concern is the pay, how they are dealing with the pay. It's not something transparent. So we want them to put a system where the payment system is crystal clear, it's transparent, so the drivers know what to expect. At the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, they know that's what they're gonna get. If they put such amount of hours on the road, they know what to rely on. So the system, the AI algorithmic system they're putting, in fact, the main reason is just to dribble people, to cheat, to steal people, so that they can get away with it. So the taxi industry system, for example, is very simple. It's a meter. If you pick up someone, there is a minimum pay when you are moving. And then when you arrive, they calculate the mileage and the time you spend. It's very clear. So why do they not put such a system to make it crystal clear? They dribbling people, and that shouldn't happen. And what is insane, what's sad, is the judicial system, who are supposed to protect their citizen, they are here watching this happening. So this is what is the most insane part. I can understand that these corporations, like usually human beings, we are like that. Some people like always to cheat. When they are given occasion, they cheat. But what is insane is how can that happen? The judicial system, the congressmen who are here, who've been elected by their citizens, and they are there at the Congress to support their citizens, their rights. And what we are asking is not too much. What we are asking is only the basics of life, to have a fair pay, to have a pay that can allow you to meet end. At the end of the month, you can have basics rights, like basics of life, which is food, which is like good health, which is having a good housing, which is having access to good education. That is what we are asking for, to have a decent life. So we are not asking extraordinary. So when you live in a country like the biggest democracy in the whole world, then the congressmen, the lawmakers are sitting and watching these companies sucking our blood. I mean, and then they're not saying anything. That is insane. And as you know, they say, which is an eternal truth, if you see injustice happening around you, you can do something, and you don't do, then you are complicit. So sometimes we are tempted to ask ourselves, do they take their cut also? Is that why they're shutting it up? They're seeing all this happening. So that is why we are here today. Thank you very much.
And the companies spent $200 million on Proposition 22. They said they would provide health care for the workers. What's changed since Proposition 22?
It's never happened. Exactly. That point is really insane. Can you imagine? They prefer to pay $220 million on lobbying than giving it to the guys who help getting them, making them have money, who are on the road, risking their lives. When you know in life, human being soul is the most expensive, the most important in life. Because when you lose your soul, it's the end of it. But the drivers, people are not conscious of it. Those are the guys running the risk of being hit dead all the time, like our military, when they go on the front line in wars, they are not sure to come back at all. It's one of the most risky jobs where you risk your life. So, and then the drivers, similarly, every early in the morning from the dawn, we are the dawn breakers, we wake up early in the morning, we take people to their airport to not to miss their flight. We take people to their work. We take people to wherever they're going early in the morning, and we are on the road, and the more time you spend on the road, the more exposed to you are risk, you are exposed to death, being killed. So we do that, and then they are not already 220 million to spread it among their drivers who working hard to make them be rich, like Dara and then David Richer. They're having, how much money they're making? I ask myself sometimes, do they have conscience? How can they sleep? How can you be sitting on your butt in an air conditioner and the guys who are on the road making you rich? You are not even sensitive to them. You don't think that they have family. You don't think the way you take vacation, go to the Caribbean island, you don't think they don't dream of such thing? They want to have time with their family too. They want to work hard, of course, but they want to have at least weekends to spend with their wives and kids. And every head of family, when you are absent all the time, you cannot control your family. Your kids are exposed to drugs, they are not going to be good students, and they may end up one day ending on the street, becoming big bandits and becoming homeless, who knows, or drunk, or smoking marijuana, and that's going to come against the society. And then they are here to fix the society. They cannot anticipate, to prevent, to stop those things from happening. All what we are asking them is to give us pay rate so that at least we have Saturday and Sunday with our family. We can go to the restaurant with our family. We want to go to the beach with our family so that our wives, our kids are also happy. That's what we want, a family life. But when you are on the road, more than between 10 and 12 hours a day, you come home broken like that. You just come, you don't even have enough energy time to have a shower. You just go on bed like that. Kids don't see you the whole day, your wife do not see you the whole day, and then you come and then you go to bed. Early in the morning again, you gotta wake up. So we are in a kind of trap, slavery. I call Uber and Lyft the slavery, the disguised slavery, the modern slavery, slavery of the 21st century. That's how I treat them, and it is a fact. It's a disguised slavery.
And we're here in the AI capital of the United States.
Silicon Valley, exactly.
And how is this being used to further exploit you or to change your conditions?
Okay, well, as I just mentioned, the algorithm system, which is very hard to control, so that is what they are using. In French, they have a sentence that I like. They say, la science sans conscience est la ruine de l'âme. That is a writer, a French writer, Rabelais. His name was Rabelais. He said, science without conscience is the ruin of the soul. So science is useful, of course, but it has to be used with measure and see that it doesn't impact people negatively. It should impact people positively, but not being used to exploit man like it's become like a jungle. The animal who is stronger just jump on the other one and eat it. So that's the difference between human being and the animals. So we are here in society, we say we are civilized, and then those corporations, they are exploiting people, openly.
Are you ready to fight? Yes! Okay, we have right here a driver, Diana, who is going to lead our parade. We're going to march behind her. She's going to lead the march with her car, and she has on top of her car a house, and she wants to tell us a little bit why. Ella va a nos decir por qué tiene esta casa encima de su carro.
Soy conductor de Uber hace aproximadamente 4 años. Desde ese momento en que decidí ser conductor, me di cuenta que yo pago renta y yo no vivo en mi casa. Yo vivo en mi carro, como en mi carro.
Let's translate, right? So she says she's an Uber driver. She works for Uber. At some point, she realized that she pays rent, but she lives in her car and she eats in her car.
Is that right?
No. Aparte de eso, como en mi carro, hago mis necesidades en mi carro. No siento vergüenza en contarlo que orino en mi carro e incluso la dos también la hago en mi carro por necesidad. He aprendido a sobrevivir dentro de mi carro porque ese es el trabajo al que nos tienen sometidos.
I've been learning how to live in my car. It's been a struggle. Like now I'm, able to do anything in my car. It's really a struggle, really finding a restroom, doing this work. So I have to find ways to survive.
La ilusión de sacar adelante nuestros proyectos, cada uno tenemos una carga distinta. Nos esforzamos a diario y nos sometemos a que nos paguen como quieran, a que nuestra voz no tiene quien la escuche, a que se hace lastimosamente. Muchos de acá somos Uber y somos también a veces pasajeros, pero a los pasajeros siempre tiene la razón el pasajero. El Uber no tiene cómo defenderse. La app toma la decisión.
As everybody else, we have dreams, we have goals that we want to achieve, but at the same time, we've been squished by these corporations that no matter what we do, they will never listen to us. They listen to the customer before they even consider our word or what we say.
De 3 años para acá ha bajado demasiado los pagos. Para nosotros son miserias. Es una miserableza lo que nos pagan por recoger una persona y pues lastimosamente el pasajero no tiene la culpa. Al pasajero le cobran caro, al driver le pagan muy barato y gracias a que tenemos tanta necesidad abusan y tenemos que trabajar. Entonces hacemos ahora el doble o el triple de tiempo por la mitad o menos de lo que nos ganábamos anteriormente.
From about 3 years ago, the pay has been really significantly going down, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the customer is paying less. The customer pays even more now. But so now what we have to do is work the double or the triple amount of time to be able to make ends meet.
Estoy agradecida porque nos estamos apoyando todos, porque en mi tierra se dice que una gaviota no hace llover, varias sí. Gracias por venir a apoyarnos. Y yo sé que si lo hacemos fuerte entre todos, vamos a encontrar algún día un resultado. Gracias.
So while Diana has her house on top of her car to represent how she's trapped in her car all day, we have behind us here a giant puppet of our dear friend Dara, who last year made $34.6 million in compensation in pay, while squeezing workers and extracting every last cent out of them. Is that right? Is that just?
My name is Jason Munderloh. I'm here with Rideshare Drivers United. There's a bunch of different organizations here, all concerned about algorithmic wage discrimination. Drivers are getting hit with it first. I mean, Uber is ahead of the curve, if we want to call it that way, in terms of using an algorithm to pay as little as possible. They do it from both sides. If you're a passenger, they charge you as much as possible, and us drivers get the smallest fraction of that they can figure out how to do with their algorithm. We're not sure if it's just based on what data they gather on us through our phone. It's definitely that. But they might be pulling in data from other places. They might be buying data to know when our rent is due, and they know that we're a little bit desperate. We're going to take a ride we wouldn't usually. And this report that's coming out from Power Switch Action is about that. It's about the fact that the more desperate you are, the less they pay, because they know that you're going to be willing to give more of your labor for less money. And they're using that against all us drivers everywhere, but especially we're feeling it here in the Bay Area where cost of living is so high.
And what's the solution?
The solution is transparency and a seat at the table. The only way that this gets fixed is drivers get together and decide what we want together, get educated, come together at actions like this one, and push back. It's changing all the time. Uber, their algorithm changes every day, and we need to be pushing back against that. There is a possibility here of this being good, remunerative work that can support families and stuff, but we got to fight for it, And Uber is going to ignore us. They ignore us one by one. That is their business model, is to ignore every single one of us. You try to get them on the phone. If you have issues with the platform or you're deactivated, which is to be fired, you try to get in contact. They will not talk to you. They make a really big effort to push everybody away, have us talk to artificial intelligence systems, and
What's that like?
It's awful. I mean, it's you're not talking to a person. As soon as you figure out that they can't do anything for you, and that's intentionally. So they won't talk with us on a one-on-one basis. They can't ignore us if we're all together. And so that's where we need to be, is gathering together and pressing our issues as a group with solidarity with each other. That's how we change this. We can't do it as individuals. And the quicker people realize that and start doing that process, the better our work will be pretty quickly.
We are protesting Uber. We are tired of all the deactivations and their push for AVs. And we want to get our power back.
And what does that mean? I mean, what are the conditions that have led you to decide to organize and to come here today?
Well, because there's people are unjustly getting deactivated for just random things that doesn't even make sense. Passengers actually just false report us, and we don't even get a chance to actually say our piece. And then by the time it's already in their database. It's final. We don't even get a chance to actually appeal or anything or fight back. So
is it arbitrary on their part?
It's mostly kind of sort of. It's like, so I've been deactivated back in December for unsafe driving. There was this one car in front of me in traffic decided to dart over all four lanes. I had a passenger that didn't wear their seatbelt. And while this guy, darted over, I had to hit the brakes a little firmer than normal just to actually not get hit. He fell out of his seat. He filed a complaint and for unsafe driving and got me deactivated. Went to write a long paragraph or on detail a reason why this is not fair, and they still deactivated me. So I'd got nothing on.
And they're AI, how is AI being used in these algorithms?
So they use AI just to pay us a lot less than what we should. They charge the passengers a lot more, but they don't give that portion of what they charge to the drivers who are doing all the work. And so we'll see a $4 or $5, $6 ride just to go halfway across the city, and it's not right. Just even going to the airport, it's less than $8.
And what do you think about this autonomous vehicles? These companies want to get autonomous vehicles, Waymo and Tesla, to eliminate drivers entirely, not just taxi drivers, but also truck drivers. I mean, you think it's a threat to future for work, this kind of work?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely not only just for a threat for work, but it's definitely a safety issue. Glitches are known to happen. I've seen multiple AVs just stop in the middle of the intersection, stop behind utility vehicles.
Isn't that illegal under the law?
Right. Yeah, because if we'd done it, we would have got fined every citation under the sun. They've blocked emergency vehicles. They've blocked anybody, and it's insane. And you have to wait until it sorts itself out, because you try to move in front of it, they'll try to move into you, and like you're not even there.
It seems they're above the law. They're not doing to them what they do to drivers.
Right. It's not fair. it's really messed up how the companies just get away with it. You know, so many citations that they should have got, and we're just getting, every time we blink, we're just getting in trouble.
And the politicians, it seems like they're giving them a pass. Workers' comp law under AB 5, you were supposed to get that. Are you getting workers' compensation from these companies?
Absolutely not. I'd say even with the issues with AB 5, but the AV vehicles, like people have gotten hurt, people have gotten hit, people have just. I don't understand how they still have their license. I don't understand how these companies are still even operating with all the trouble they've caused. Sure, we've actually had like issues. There's an infraction or two, but it's nothing like on the severity of what they have.
And if you get injured in an auto accident and you don't have insurance, you end up in a public hospital. I mean, so it's the public, the taxpayer, that's really paying for what should be their cost of workers' comp.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and they sometimes deactivate us even just for being injured. They anytime we're in an accident and we're trying to get our stuff taken care of, get us taken care of, we're thrown off platform. We are forced to deactivate it, even though we as soon as some of us actually do come out of the hospital, fine, but we're still permanently deactivated. Like it was our fault to begin with. Like
Do you know any drivers that that's happened to?
I've known a couple of drivers that it's happened to. I know there's who has been retaliated against. I've seen people in the Facebook forums that that they haven't been out. They've been off platform for like a year because of that very same reason.
And it seems like the billionaires are growing.
Oh yeah.
I mean they're making a lot of money,
it seems to be like it's easier to make multiple millions instead of just a simple 1,000 for just to make rent. It shouldn't be that way. They're cutting a lot of corners, and it's cutting a lot of corners from not only passengers but definitely us. They're upcharging all the passengers like a lot of money. I've seen. So just yesterday, this passenger paid $34 just to go to Millbrae, from here to Millbrae, but they only gave me $8. And I asked the customer service, like, hey, in what universe is giving the person that did all the work less than half of what the passenger pays? How is that okay? How is that acceptable?
What can people do about it?
We got to fight.
My name is Mariah Montgomery. I am the campaign instructor at Power Switch Action, a national organization that's partnered with Gig Workers Rising.
And what is Power Switch Action?
We're a national network of organizations around the country that organize communities and workers for better conditions, more affordability, and a livable planet.
And what are the conditions for drivers here? There are drivers here, I've interviewed some of them. They say they're having a very tough time, not a living wage. Is that the general situation for drivers in Uber, Lyft, these companies?
Yeah, what we see across the country is that over the last several years, driver wages have actually fallen, even though the amount of time that drivers are working is staying pretty constant. And meanwhile, the company's profits are soaring. So, I think that what the research bears out and what drivers will tell you is that the way the company is making their money is by squeezing drivers, and they're charging passengers more. Fares are going up.
And how does AI algorithms fit into this picture of what the companies are doing?
Yeah, so Uber really pioneered using AI to manipulate how they pay drivers and how much they pay drivers. And so what it means is it becomes very unpredictable for drivers to know how much money they're going to make on any given day. There aren't a lot of jobs where even if you know how much you're going to work and where you're going to work, that your pay would change day to day. So it makes it very unpredictable, which is obviously extremely stressful given the cost of living.
And the conditions of the drivers, some of them are living in their cars. It seems like they're violating labor laws. They're not paid minimum wage in California. Is this a general situation?
So we just conducted a national survey of drivers about how AI pay is affecting them, and what we found is 1 in 3 drivers reported that they had sometime in the last year not eaten even when they were hungry because they didn't have money. 1 in 10 had stayed in their car or in a shelter. I think about half had avoided medical care that they needed. So yeah, the impact on drivers is really broadly and deeply felt.
And what's the future? Because it seems like they even want more deregulation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the future is what's happening right now all around us is that people are getting together to fight back. Nobody wants big tech to decide our futures, right? We all have a stake. If they can do this to Uber drivers, they can do it to any of us. And so that's why it's really important this kind of event is happening.
And how can people get information about your organization?
So you can find us at powerswitchaction.org, or I would encourage you to check out Gig Workers Rising here in the Bay.
Sorry, what does it say?
Warning AI wages in use.
Warning AI wages in use. So I tell people what we got to do is collectively take our money and resources, utilize mutual aid to help each other out so you can, with the day-to-day expenses of life, so we can invest in our own community-owned infrastructure, so we can start buying our own alternatives to technology and reform copyright laws. So we can make something like this people power. That's what we have to do, man.
What's your name?
Chase.
Are you a driver?
Yes.
So you feel that basically they're exploiting you?
Oh, yes. I mean, I feel like the best alternative, we have two ways about it. We have protesting out today, and we also just have to get together and then do our own and form our own. You know what I mean? Hey, yeah, and start pulling out money from this system that's exploiting us right now. You know, that's what I tell people. You know, so you have to own the means of production. You know, you collectively own the means of production, and how you do that, help each other out with mutual aid, save the money and resources, so you can own that and reinvest back to the community.
Bueno, venimos a representar la organización de César. Queremos que Uber mejore muchas cosas y condiciones para nosotros en tema de seguridad, y es básicamente eso. Muchas gracias y esperemos que esto sirva para que más gremios y más conductores lleguen y hagan partícipe de esto.
Yes, look like getting cheaper and something wrong with the Uber system, They're manipulating too much.
So they manipulate it to take your money away.
Exactly.
My name is Mark. I've been a rideshare driver for about 13 years. Recently tried to move over to driving a taxi cab and have run into a lot of roadblocks there. And I've been looking for full-time work for a few years now and having trouble, partially because on my resume it says rideshare driver.
What does that mean?
Well, it depends on who's reading it. If you're looking at a 51-year-old's resume and see 4 years of gig work as full-time employment, you might just think washed out and too old to be a part of a technology team or a financial team or a tow truck driver or a moving man. I've applied for a lot of different jobs, about 3,500 applications sent out to receive, I think, 2 interview requests, both of which I'm still in the hiring process for.
And your sign says equal pay for equal work. What is that about?
This means that I'm part of a group that handed out signs, and this is one of the choices that I had to pick from. To me, it means unrealistic expectations. If you look at the price of a fare as a passenger and the amount of money that could be shared with the driver, even if they gave us 100% of the fare, we wouldn't make enough money to equal minimum wage for the job that we're doing.
So how do they expect drivers to survive if they're not even paying minimum wage?
Yeah, they is the pertinent question there. They don't. Most passengers don't want to hear about it. You can definitely drop your 5-star rating down below the barrier of being deactivated by trying to have that conversation with passengers. Some of them will generously attempt to make up for that with gratuity. However, the reality is there's just not enough money in the pie to spread it evenly and have equity for drivers or the companies.
Well, these companies are making billions of dollars, and they want to use some of that money now to use AI for autonomous vehicles. What are your concerns about the future for working people, yourself and other workers in this economy?
Well, again, I would argue that point, that they're not making billions of dollars. They're collecting billions of dollars and attempting to distribute that quite unevenly. If you watch Super Pump the Battle for Uber and look at how they spend their money in the office, they're spending it frivolously. They don't have that much money. You look at Google alone has invested over $250 billion in Lyft and almost as much in Uber. And they are definitely not expecting to get their money back from passengers paying fares. They think that every passenger has a value that can be collected at a later date. So the database is what they're investing in, not the experience, and not mobility nor freedom of transportation.
And are they collecting this data without your permission?
No, you're signing up and saying, I agree. You're giving them your credit card information, your driver's license information, your home address. You're giving them, as a driver, all the data that they need in order to programmatically control you. That doesn't require artificial intelligence. Old-fashioned intelligence and old-fashioned software will do the trick just fine.
And what kind of regulations should be put in place? They want deregulation. There was a bill in the Congress that they would like to deregulate for 10 years, AI. It seems like they want to be able to do what they want in the Wild Wild West.
Right, you can't legislate for a quarter to be worth $1. There's no way to do that. The legislation that we're trying to put in place is to get our fair pay guaranteed in an algorithm that doesn't mathematically add up to 100%.
And where are the politicians on this? Because it seems like they're taking the money from these same companies.
Well, if you drive rideshare long enough, you find a lot of them in the back seat. They are passengers. I haven't yet to meet a politician that is actually a rideshare driver. And, you know, they'll give you their 30 seconds like anybody else. But at the end of the day, what they're worried about is keeping their job and making promises that could not be kept because, like I said, they mathematically do not add up.
And these companies spend $220 million for Prop 22. How did that change your working conditions and your benefits? They said it would help the workers, they would provide workers' compensation.
Well, if you look at what they were saying, what was passed, and what's been done since, they spent $220 million to lie to 44 million people and get you to believe that we were going to be treated fair and equitably and get minimum wage plus $3 an hour. And then as soon as it passed, they put into the software that only counts while you have a passenger in the car. So all the time and money that you spend taking care of your car, getting to pick up a passenger, and waiting for the next passenger to order a ride is not included in that. So if you go to work for 8 hours a day and spend 4 hours with people in the car and split that in half, you're already at $11 an hour. If you go to the nationalequityatlas.org Prop 22 research study, you'll find out that average California driver is only earning $6.20 per hour. Delivery drivers are actually up closer to $7 an hour. None of that comes close to being minimum wage. And if you take an average driver's annual report, add 67 cents per mile to the mileage that you've been recorded driving, not to mention that 20 to 25% of the mileage that you drive doesn't get included in that report, your pay drops below $10 an hour, just on the IRS's standard for mileage and the amount of money that you've collected from Uber.
So how do they expect people to keep driving? I know that some drivers go bankrupt or they're trying to finance their cars. They can't even take care of the cars that they have leased.
Yeah, you look at any startup book in the world, it's a funnel. You come in at high pay, you survive as long as you can, and at the end, as you would call it in software development, you become garbage and get discarded.